where the wild winds run, where the skies stretch wide and kiss the sun. The sagebrush whispers, the rivers hum. This land's a story just begun. Wyoming calls, where the heart beats free. Mountains rise and dreams run deep. Past the borders, past the sign, there's a world alive beyond the fence line. Boots hit gravel and the prairie sings with every hoofbeat. The frontier rings from ranchers' hands to miners' veins. The spirit of the West remains. Wyoming calls, where the heart beats free. Mountains rise and dreams run deep. Past the borders, past the sign, there's a world alive beyond the fence line. So come ride with me through the dust and time. Find the soul of Wyoming beyond the fence line, beyond the fence beyond the fence line, beyond the fence beyond the fence line, where the wild winds run, where the skies stretch wide and kiss the sun.
Hey, hey, hey. Good morning, Wyoming. Happy Friday. Hope you guys are doing well. Wow. Week 1 of Wyoming Beyond the Fence Line wrapping up today. How cool is that? I was looking back, and it was just about a year ago that I announced my run for governor. And One thing I starkly noticed is I had more hair a year ago. Is politics? Does politics make your hair fall out? I don't know. Boy, oh boy, I'm going to be bald by the end of this year if this keeps up. Anyways, great to be here today. We're Wyoming Beyond the Fence Line. This is guys. This is where uh, we go beyond the fence line. We go outside the echo chamber. We go under the hood of what's actually going on in politics in the Wyoming and the world. We don't take just the headlines. We go deeper. What's funny about this week, and by the way, this was not by design, you guys. Every single one of the topics that we had today on the show, or had on the show this week, the first week, ended up tying into something major that was going on in Wyoming that day. And by the way, that was not by design. That just sort of happened. So, very very interesting, very fun. I hope that happens all the time because then that makes us a lot more relevant, right? And so today's episode was actually planned, well, a while ago, and we're actually going to be talking about what a wind, what is wind, ranching, wind power and energy, and ranching and estate taxes all have in common. And of course, maybe you guys know I live streamed the state land and investment boards meetings yesterday, most of the day yesterday. And boy, the topic of the day was wind energy. And I actually did share this story that I'm going to share today because today is about Wyoming stories. And those are going to be stories that of people that I've met along this journey that we're on here to be something different in politics in Wyoming and for the people. As you know, I left the Republican Party about a month ago or 2 months ago, and you can take a look at those videos if you're interested in understanding the philosophy why I decided to leave the two major party system in an effort to really, really focus on just serving the people. The people are going to be my echo chamber. And so anyways, I get to tell this story because I think Fridays will probably be my favorite day because it's storytelling day, right? It's like sort of like I'm opening this book, this storybook, and I'm going to read it to you guys. And so I'm excited about that. So today's story is about a rancher that I met. Oh gosh, I want to say over the summer. They came by our place to get some chickens, and we just got to talking. Just got to shoot in the breeze like I often do, and the story that she told me was very, very compelling because it it really was truly an under the hood story. It was a story that most of us wouldn't normally hear, right? So we see the headlines about, all of these windmill farms going in across the state. And my question, I always, when I talk to people, I try to get, well, the purpose of this, like Wyoming beyond the fence line, right? When I talk to people across this state, I try to get beyond the fence line. I want to understand their why. I want to understand the purpose of what they've chosen and what's going on with them. And so as we got to talking and they were talking about these windmill project and things like that, I asked them a really simple question. I said, why do you want to put these giant 700-foot tall monstrosities on your ranch? Like, why do you want to do that? And obviously all of us think, well, it's about the money, blah, blah, blah. And that may be true to an extent, right? The money, the income is important and things like that. And so they were sharing with me, well, Joseph, a couple of things. Beef just isn't cutting it anymore. We are not able to sustain our ranching operation in 2025. So it's because this was last year on beef alone. And so we've been looking at other creative ways that what can we do to, uh, fill these gaps in our ranch, and of course, Wyoming wind, right? It's an opportunity perhaps for them to go ahead and, fill the gaps, but it was so much more deeper than that because what they told me was one of the things that they told me was really, really compelling, at least to me. Joseph, we would not do this if it wasn't for estate taxes. I said, what do you mean? What do you mean? Well, it says land has become so valuable with with inflation, the increase in real estate, the land and value of land. And so when you have a ranch, Joseph, that's, 25,000, 50,000 acres, when you inherit that ranch, the estate taxes will be so Astronomical. We won't be able to keep more than half the ranch. We'll have to sell half the ranch to pay the estate taxes, and we're not going to be able to pass this ranch down to our kids. And the way we saw it is if we put these monstrosities on our skyline, the revenue created from that on our land would allow us to keep our land. When our parents pass away and we inherit this estate, if you will, um, we will be able to afford those estate taxes and pass the ranch to our kids, to the next generation. That really got me thinking, here is bureaucracy creating a problem for our nation's food producers. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but there are a lot of ranches for sale right now. I was reading an article, I guess it was a couple of weeks ago now, that said that in the last couple of years, we have lost over 200,000 small ranches in this nation, in America, because it's too expensive, it's too hard. Bureaucracy has created this massive bubble around the agriculture industry as we subsidize everything, right? So only those that are subsidized are surviving, right? Because they're able to afford whatever the bureaucracy is requiring, you know, whether it's the vaccines or I think right now there's a whole bunch of microchipping, being pushed really hard on the on the beef industry, or Argentinian beef coming into the market more. Instead of investing into American beef markets, we're going to invest overseas. I thought we were America first. So this whole wind turbine thing on the ranch, there is stories, you guys, under the hood that maybe we don't always hear. They're outside the fence line. They're beyond the echo chamber. And when you ask the right questions, you go, oh, well, I think I kind of understand why you're doing that. Bureaucracy has created something for you, and it's gotten to the point where you're thinking about the future, and this appears to be the only path forward for you. And don't get me wrong, you guys, I believe that we have done ourselves a disservice in this state, in this nation, with renewable energy, and here's why. Wind energy has been in Wyoming for almost 4 decades, and guess what? That technology has advanced very little. In 40 years, that technology has pretty much stalled. Has it gotten a little more efficient? Yes. Does it produce a little more energy? Yes, because one of the reasons it does that is because they're massive, right? We heard yesterday at the board meeting, at the State Land and Investment Board meeting, those windmill blades, they look like they're turning really slow when they're really turning over 100 miles an hour, creating a vortex that sucks in our aerial wildlife, right? Our eagles, our hawks, even our small songbirds. Of course, we have plenty of songbirds, but these massive vortexes created by these windmills killing all of our birds in our environment, And you might go, Joseph, why hasn't the technology advanced in 40 years? Why hasn't really solar panels advanced? I mean, I think we've kind of advanced again in solar panels where it produces more energy, maybe a little bit more. I'll tell you why. It's because we've subsidized this stuff for decades. It's not motivated to get better. Why? Because why? We get all the money we want. Why would we try to advance the technology? I've seen some very interesting advances in wind technology, but guess what? We're not doing it. We're not doing it here. I think renewable energy is interesting, you guys. I think I said this yesterday in my energy conversation on the show. I think it's interesting, but it's not advanced in 3-4 decades. Hardly advanced in 3 or 4 decades because it's not motivated to. And also, of course, I'm a staunch. If it needs to live on taxpayer dollars, it needs to learn to live on its own, or it needs to die. And I say that tongue in cheek because you guys, we subsidize everything. We subsidize absolutely everything as taxpayers. And as a principled leader, and as I'm running for governor, I'm saying no more. No more. Even if we want it, it's funny. Part of the reason that I left the party is because we say we don't like subsidies. Well, of course, unless it's subsidies we like. We say We don't like welfare or handouts or government handouts or things like this, unless it's government handouts of welfare that we want. We say we have these principles about smaller government. Oh, well, unless it's a program or more government that we want, right, you guys? So I see this sort of thinking is part of the reason why I say, you know what? I can't toe the party line if I'm expected to constantly compromise my core principles in order to make the party happy. Because I'm here to serve the people. I'm here to have conversations with the people. Oh, but don't have that conversation with that person, Joseph, because if you do that, you're a Democrat, you're a traitor, you're a rhino because you talked to someone on the left, or you talked to someone who's a rhino, or you had a conversation with someone we don't agree with. Suddenly that makes me a traitor. We guys, we got to stop doing this. This is absurd. This is just completely absurd. We can't keep doing it that way. And so I feel, and I've been talking to people, millennials, Generation X folks, things like that. And one of the things they've been telling me is we've sort of had this divisive division of a mess created for us in politics. And it's going to be up to us to come in here and build these bridges back and start creating this dialogue and this conversation again. And a lot of us are inspired by that, and we're ready to do that. I had a 36-year-old reach out to me yesterday, Joseph, and he goes, "You know what? We're going to have to rebuild this thing because the wake that's being left behind us, the legacy that's being left behind us, is a mess. It's a mess, and we're going to have to start having conversations that these folks behind us aren't willing to have, or folks above us aren't willing to have. And that's what this is about." So this story about this rancher who, first of all, by the way, I want estate taxes to go away. I'm glad the Trump administration has increased some of those thresholds so that, and going back to the topic of today, because I kind of went down a rabbit hole there. Let me get off my soapbox real quick. Okay, good. Okay, I'm not back off my soapbox here. Oh, by the way, I was told I come across a little bit intimidating and passionate and like this. So I'm gonna try to show you who I am when you sit down and talk to me. I'm gonna try to do more of that in the show. I get very passionate about issues and things like that. So I guess suppose that's good for being in politics. But this story of this rancher really really just hit my heart because bureaucracy has created problems on all sides of this matter. If this rancher was not you know, in fear really of losing half their ranch because bureaucracy has decided they're going to require that in a tax, they're going to, millions of dollars in taxes. They wouldn't be thinking about putting those windmills on their ranch. They'd be perfectly happy ranching, but bureaucracy has created a challenge for them. Um, so, I mean, I've always actually, I released a video, I think it was about 8 months ago. I talked about the tax issue, how I would just see it, estate taxes go away completely. I mean, I feel the same way about capital gains. I feel the same way about a lot of taxes that we have. These taxes that tax your risk, whether you're that rancher that, you know, ranch and small business, all of it's a risk. You put that work in on your back. Why does bureaucracy get to take half of what you've worked for? We sold our, thank God, we finally sold our house in California. We had been trying to sell it for several years, and we got to the end of that. And between the federal government and the state government, they took upwards of 30% of, I guess you could say, our equity that we were able to take out of that sale. They took like upwards of 30% from a family like mine. For most of us, I mean, that's food on our table. I mean, that's critical. But they took upwards of 30%. I thought about that. I've been paying the mortgage on that house for several decades, and I had worked to redo it and do all that, paid all my property taxes. I did all that work, paid all those mortgages, paid for that insurance, paid all those property taxes for that many years. And I didn't, what did I get in return for that? And they could just take 30%. Oh, not 30% of what we took home, by the way, 30% of the value of the whole house, right? So making their cut even bigger proportionally. So I think we're in the it's the 250th anniversary of this country this year. I think we're in for a tea party this year. In fact, I'm drinking tea. My favorite tea, by the way, I don't know if you guys have a favorite tea. My favorite tea, I love this Good Earth tea. It's non-caffeinated, kind of a sweet and spicy thing. It's my favorite tea. This says your next adventure awaits. Just don't forget your tea. Oh, there you go, guys. Don't forget your tea, and your next adventure awaits. Um, but I think we're going to have a tea party this year. I really, really do. Speaking of the tea party, what happened to them? Where'd they go? Where'd they go? I guess they're still. I guess they still exist in some ways. I wish I'd like to see them on the ballot. A little bit maybe, especially this year in this midterm election year. It's a great time for a tea party to rise. I think. With just this tax situation. So, one of the things I want to encourage you guys in with this show today is seek the truth beyond the headlines. The headline is meant to create an emotion right in you, anger, frustration, happiness. It's there to salacitize you. That's not even a word. I just made up a word right now. That's okay. It's there to create fear in some cases. The truth is often not even in the article under the headline. The truth is somewhere beyond that. So, what I want to encourage you, Wyoming, as we get in, as we're starting to get into this midterm election year, seek the truth about the candidates on your local level. Whether it's your legislators or maybe school boards, commissioners, committees. The list goes on and on and on, right? All these layers of bureaucracy, right, that we vote for. Figure out who they are and really stand for. In many cases, ignore the headlines. Ignore the headlines. Find out. Reach out to them. Sit down with them. Have a conversation. In fact, right after I get off this live stream today, I am going to breakfast with a gentleman that wants to meet with me, wants to sit, wants to have a conversation with me. He wants to get to know me. And that's what this is about. I'm meeting up with Paul. And he just kind of heard about me and is like, I really like what you stand for. And I want to talk to you about your campaign. And by the way, I mean, I'm having 3 or 4 of those a day almost now, just those types of conversations. Because a lot of folks, we got 200,000 folks in this state, roughly, rough number, don't quote me on that aren't engaged. They aren't voting. So if you're watching this and you're like, yeah, Joseph, I'm one of those. I just haven't voted. I don't vote anymore, or I haven't voted, or I haven't registered to vote. And these are the reasons why. Well, that's why I'm running, you guys. I am running. Oh, there's a little hair on that microphone there. Anyways, I'm running, you guys, because for you. I mean, literally for you, for those disenfranchised voters, those folks that have given up on the system, given up on the two parties. A lot of us have, you guys. And you know what? We misplace our faith in the first place by putting our faith in party, right? Like, we misplace our faith. Don't, you elect me your governor. Please don't put your faith in me, because guess what? I'm going to let you down. Guess what? In the next couple of weeks, as I'm doing this show, I'm probably going to say something stupid that you don't like, and you're going to have to decide, well, gee, am I going to continue to support Joseph because he said that one stupid thing, or am I going to, go somewhere else? And we're going to have to make some of those decisions. But what you'll get is at least someone who can have a conversation with you, a reasonable conversation. I'll talk to you. I'll listen to you. We don't always agree, but as we're going into this midterm season, and by the way, we're going to see a whole bunch of people jumping into the race, I think, here in the next couple of weeks. Governor, Secretary of State, Treasurer, Director of Education, all this stuff. We're going to see all of this. Superintendent, I guess I should say, of education. We're going to see a bunch of people jumping in, moving around, the pieces shuffling. I think a lot of them have predetermined who they're putting where, and we're just waiting for the announcements. But do you want people to be leading you and leading this state that are pre-selected and preordained and put before you? Or do you want to start electing folks to recreate a citizen government? And we do have, don't get me wrong, we have people in our legislature, in our state government, in our local governments that want citizen representation, citizen government. We do. Absolutely, we do. But they're few and far in between because I see them say one thing on social media like we should stop doing this, right? And the minute they get in the echo chamber, they do it because that pressure to stand alone and say no, or that pressure to stand alone and say yes, is too great. It's just too high. And so it's challenging. So I get it. I see why. I see why we are where we are. But I think if we can break up the two-party monopoly in our politics and in our government, I think we get a lot closer to what the people are looking for when it comes to representation in government. I think we really can. Um, if we don't, I'm going to tell you this. George Washington said, and I said this, I think maybe in the first show. No, I said this in a video a couple of weeks ago. George Washington said in his farewell address that the danger of major parties being in control. And he said what they would do is they would destroy the means that got them where they were so that no one would be able to follow, and then we would be stuck. I will be talking about this in maybe the next week or two on the show. There are some election bills that have gone through and that are potentially going through that are doing just that, destroying the means by which they got there. One of them is very concerning to me, and I'll mention it here because we've got a minute. There is a bill that the Secretary of State, Chuck Gray, has been tried to get through the last session last year, and it didn't go through. And he's trying to get it through again this year. That will almost triple the requirements for an independent candidate to get on any ballot in Wyoming. And you might go, Joseph, wait, what? I haven't heard about this. What are you talking about? Well, right now, the requirement in Wyoming for an independent candidate to get on a ballot is that you have to get 2% of the signatures of, the folks that voted in the last election for that one. So, for the state level, it might be 2% of, 180,000 people, right? For a local race, it might be 2% of 4,000 votes, right? Well, Secretary of State Chuck Gray has been pushing really hard, and I think as is the Freedom Caucus, to change that number for independents to get on the ballot from 2% to 5%. So almost tripling the requirement. And you have to ask yourself, why would a major party or a party that's in control want to do that? I'll tell you why. The writing's on the wall in a lot of ways. They're seeing the cracks in the party. They're seeing that independents can rise and potentially beat them, and they want to stop that from happening. And they say, oh, we're doing it to level the playing field. We're doing it to keep elections safe and secure and right and pure. In order to keep elections pure, we must make it harder for independents to get on the ballot. No, see, they want to keep control, and independents cannot be controlled. And so by tripling the requirements for independents to be on the ballot, it will make it virtually impossible for an independent to run and win in Wyoming moving forward. Why? I mean, they're getting close to winning now. Independents are getting closer to winning now with the current requirements of 2%. They change it to 5%. Independents will only have one choice, and that'll be you got to play party politics. What I'm doing as a write-in, I guarantee you, if we're successful at trying to do this write-in thing, and we get a lot of people across the state doing this, or they see that as a threat, believe me, they're gonna get rid of the way and the path to do this, because then the party does not have control. Boy, the party sure doesn't have control of a write-in candidate, let alone an independent. So we need to be mindful, eyes wide open. Yeah, you know what? We want election security. These are things that we want. But we need to be mindful of what our government and what our parties are doing, or we, the people, will have no opportunity for control, because the parties will have control, like they do now for the most part. But I think they see the cracks, and they're going to try to fill those cracks with legislation so that people, independents and people like me, can't break through, because guess what? They can't own us. I can say anything I want, and I don't have to worry about what. Well, gee, I don't want to upset the party. This isn't really, PC or whatever. So be aware of those things. Obviously, we have a legislative session coming up here. It's going to be here before we know it. Some of the bills that are going to be going to the floor or potentially going to the floor are available on the legislative website. I will post a link to that here in the next day or so that you guys have that. Uh, but I will start unpacking some of those bills that are coming. And yeah, look, is there good bills? Absolutely. There's good bills that probably serve Wyoming there. Um, and there's some bills that you have to go, ask the question, be objective. Why are they doing what they're doing? And it goes back again, wrapping back around to what the topic today of the show was, this story from this rancher, is how much of this additional bureaucracy, how much of these additional bills will create more bureaucracy, more administrative state in some way, or what's it going to cost you and me for this legislation to be enacted? So we have to be, by being outside the echo chamber, guys, by being beyond the fence line, which is the focus of this show, and we're wrapping up this first week, we can now be objective. We can have those conversations no one else is having. And I think I get jealousy from that. Oh, wow, Joseph's sitting down with these people and they're walking away and they don't hate each other. Well, how dare he do that? Well, that's how we should operate. And it's not that we're not going to have enemies. I mean, if you watch my Facebook page, I've got trolls. And they have one purpose in mind. It's just to trip me up and to spend my time. I mean, asking me questions. I had a guy ask. He asks me like 15, 20 questions a day, and he's gotten to the point where, have you ever raised chickens? What's the difference between a wolf and a coyote? And it's like, dude, like really, like, because you don't have anything else that you can ask me. So being civil and kind to people, I think that's how I want to roll. You can stand for something and be kind about it, like the outro music goes. So we play a song called "Code of the West." We can stand on something, but we could be kind about it, and that's what my goal and my objective has always been. So, guys, take to heart this story about the rancher and the windmills and the estate taxes. And you know what? AG is so important in this state. So important. Our agriculture industry is so important. And in many ways, we're subsidizing it. In many ways, we're neglecting it. In many ways, it's bureaucratic administrative state, right? We're not letting our ranchers live and let live. We're not letting our agriculture be all that it could be because of this heavy-handed bureaucracy. And we need to free the market. Taylor Haynes made a great video about the beef market when Trump was talking about the Argentinian beef coming in. You should watch that video. Look up Taylor Haynes. He actually ran for governor a few years back as well. Watch his video. You know what? In addition to the legislative link, I will also put Taylor Haynes' video up as well. His video is compelling, and it's like, that's what we've got to do for everybody in Wyoming. For that rancher that's thinking about putting windmills on their ranch so that they can survive because beef isn't cutting it. If we would just free the market and get bureaucracy out of the way, beef would be enough for that ranch to survive. So with that, you guys have a great weekend. We'll be back on Monday, and Mondays are all Wyoming. So we're just going to talk about everything going on in Wyoming on Monday. Tuesday will be another policy chat. I might talk about agriculture on Tuesday. I don't know. We'll see. Next week will be Wednesday. I kind of cover what's hot, what's going on in the news, right? What's going on in Washington, in the world. We just kind of talk all of the hullabaloo, right? You know what? Actually, I want to mention one thing and something we should be thinking about. I don't know if you watched yesterday. Yesterday, the Senate passed a bill, a war bill, to stop Trump's use of the military in different countries and stuff. And the House passed the continuation of at least 3 years of the ACA subsidies. Awful lot of cracks in the Trump administration too right now, you guys. We need to be thinking, we need to be watching what Congress is doing. Today, the Supreme Court is ruling on Trump's tariffs. That's also going to be a big deal. And you guys say, well, Joseph, that doesn't affect Wyoming. Well, yeah, it does affect you. Tariffs affect you whether you like it or not. Studies showed that the cost of goods last year, 17% of that in cost of most goods was the new tariffs. So cost of goods going up because of tariffs. They don't have the final numbers for that, by the way. That's just what some studies are showing. It's that the cost and increase of goods of around 17% for the average American, directly tied to tariffs. So today's tariff ruling will be really interesting too. So let's get this show wrapped up today. You guys, obviously, I do take the weekend off on the shows. Tomorrow is my morning to sleep in, probably. But I want to leave you with this January 9th. This is a quote from Roy Lesson. He says, a man should strive to do three things for his family: ahead of them to guide them, behind them as an encourager, and beside them as a friend. So with that, you guys, God bless you. Have a great, safe, wonderful weekend. You know what? Try to find something fun to do. Do something that brings you life. And we'll talk to you guys on Monday. Take care. Bye now.
Sun comes up on a small town road, coffee in a thermos, steel-toe boots. You don't flinch when the wind blows cold. You just do what you're born to do. Calloused hands on a busted gate, fix what's broke till it holds its weight. You don't cut corners, don't fake the shine. You see it through every single time. That's the code of the West. Stand tall, give your very best. Your word is the mark on your chest. You ride for your people, you don't forget. Some things you just can't buy, like a clean heart and a clear sky. Know where to draw that line. That's the code of the West. That's the way I ride. You shake a hand that's a 90. Doesn't change with the way you feel. If you say you'll show, you'll be on time. Rain on the roof or a blue sky shine. You wear the name on your paycheck proud. Hold up the crew when the chips fall down. You don't brag big, you just get it done. Few words spoken, but you speak in tongues. That's the code of the West. Stand tall.